people call us regulators, but I would really like people to call us enablers, because, there's a mindset shift to where we want to reach, and we have high ambitions. And if we move as an enabler, we're moving with us a whole entire sector, right? We have banks, we have finance leasing companies, we have money exchange establishments, we have payment service providers, and we have fintechs. That's a huge, chunk of a sector waiting for us. And we really have to be bold.
Tejarah Talks.
Welcome to Tejarah Talks, Oman's premier business podcast. From green manufacturing to Gen Z and the creative industries, we explore the exciting trends and game-changing ideas that are shaping our business community. No matter whether you're a C-suite veteran, a startup pioneer, or a curious business enthusiast, we've got you covered. Today, we're joined by Ghada Al Kharusi from the Central Bank of Oman and Saud Al Zakwani from PDO. Thank you both for being here today. It's a real privilege and an honor, and I'm really excited to be able to run this podcast with you. Let's start with a quick introduction. If we can start with you, Ghada. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your role, and what you do.
Thank you very much, Jamal. I think we are equally excited to be here with you today. A little bit about what I do. I lead the innovation department at the Central Bank of Oman. So we support innovation and the use of technology in the financial sector. There's this buzzword going around called fintech, and this is what we're responsible to promote as a regulator.
Great, thank you. Saud, please.
Thank you for having me also. I'm quite excited for the podcast. My name is Saud Al Zakwani. I work as the head of digital transformation in Petroleum Development Oman. I lead the Digital Center of Excellence, a hub of innovation with data scientists, data engineers, the future skills that Oman actually requires and PDO requires for our digital transformation.
Actually, both of you are really helping shape Oman. Oil and gas, Saud, and from the financial sector. Both of you stem from technology and innovation backgrounds and are familiar intimately with Web 3.0. So really excited again to have you here.
Over the past 10 years, Nodal has worked on some of Oman's most important digital transformation projects, including the InvestEasy portal and the Omani Census 2020. We've also been committed to developing local entrepreneurial talent through our Oman Talent Hub. With digital transformation playing a key role in Oman's Vision 2040, we're excited to see what's next for the country and how we can continue to be part of its journey.
Let's start with, if you will, a quick definition of Web 3.0, just for our audiences. So, Ghada, would you care to define what Web 3.0 is and why it's important?
Sure. Well, the easiest way is to bore you and give you a long list of definitions that you can easily find on ChatGPT. But in my perspective, I think Web3 is all about freedom. I keep saying that in every presence and every time somebody asks me. And let me just briefly explain to you why I believe that Web3 is a revolution of freedom, because the technology itself is promoting decentralization. Decentralization from three main aspects, one of which is decentralization from central banks controlling the money. Two, decentralization from financial intermediaries, right? And we've seen that a lot with blockchain technology. And third, and the most important, is there's this aspect of freedom with regards to the internet and its revolution. The data currently, as we speak, is owned by social media platforms, right? But with the blockchain technology and the blockchain revolution, the data is actually under your own ownership. So I would like to always, say that Web3 is defined as a platform for freedom. But do we agree with all the aspects it's providing? Now, this is up for discussion.
I like the definition, and freedom is a beautiful word. Saud, would you agree? Is it?
I
about
find
freedom?
the definition excellent. I'm not sure if I have anything else to add on it. Maybe the point on we are on a stage of evolution. We've gone through Web 1.0, 2.0, and currently we're not the first phase, definitely not the last. We'd definitely be seeing Web 4.0. But the current phase, we're quite early in stage. We speak about freedom, and I see quite a lot of capabilities. Transparency, which is part and parcel of what Ghada just defined as. I also see autonomy. With the current technologies that we have with Web 2.0, we can automate, but reaching a stage of autonomy, complete autonomy, is quite a challenge. So Web 3.0 is also bringing autonomy into the space.
Saud, I understand you're leading the digitization effort at PDO.
Yeah.
PDO being the primary oil and gas provider in Oman, which is the backbone of our economy.
Indeed.
You mentioned autonomy.
Yeah.
Is Web 3.0 having an impact on our oil and gas industry in Oman? Is it affecting PDO, and how so? And is autonomy playing an important role in terms of helping boost productivity and efficiencies?
Indeed. I think Web 3.0's capabilities is what we envision Oman's 2040 vision. Our new purpose in PDO is well linked as an enabler. And just to share what we currently are doing in PDO in that space, and specifically on autonomy, in 2018, we actually started automation. And we had quite a level of excellence when it comes to automation, but it was quite siloed. So you'd have pieces of amazing work which are just automated, but then you're not reaping the holistic value out of it. 2018 till today, we have a team of digital workforce, we consider them. We have Fatma, who was recruited in 2018. She's very good in numbers, and she's carrying out almost 20 automation processes, making sure each and every one of them are addressed. We have Najma. We are very competent on exploration and COVID compliance, where we had to look into the entire PDO workforce and base it based on what Oman was regulating. So you're not allowed to enter PDO if you have any symptoms. How do you check with that? So Najma was quite vigilant on that. We have Musaad, who is in engineering, and he's helping on alarm rationalization, has almost 20 also capabilities in that. And all in all, if we look at these three, and we have the fourth names, they're all robots. We just give them names. They are running 78 automations day in, day out. And if I look at Web 2.0, we would have automation, but then we not have a digital workforce. Web 3.0 is actually bringing that capability. Today in PDO, if I look at it, when we look at recruiting, we actually look at recruiting from a creativity standpoint. We don't look at recruiting from, we need 10 people who would actually push this or data entry. So I think that impact is quite vigilant.
Just to follow up on this, on the 78 automations and the 4 robots that you mentioned, is there a threat to jobs in PDO?
That's a very good question. So initially when we started, so the 4th robot is Salama, and she's she's working in HSC. When we started presenting how much FTE we were saving, and based on how they were actually looking. Then we changed our mode of presentation, because we were actually not taking anyone's job. the capacity and capability that we were introducing was hardly scrapping 5 or 7% of what we were expected to do. It is the tedious Monday work that I don't like to do. I don't want to finish my coffee at home and drive knowing that I need to go and push a button, or I have a PDF which I need to translate it to a database. So all of that is actually being done automatically and autonomously by these robots. As of date, we have not managed to replace anyone, but we have upskilled people to actually take more creative roles.
So do you think as a whole, PDO has benefited?
100%. We have value. Currently, the 4 robots are equivalent to 17 FTEs. We have close to $6 million savings based on these processes. And their processes, if I can share some of the stories where it's not the value that we bring in, but also the value we're actually granting the workforce. So if, for example, in finance, closing date, end of the month, you have to make sure everything is done before closing a specific statement. And what happens is we'd have employees coming at 11th hour close to midnight just to make sure that everyone has already submitted everything to be able to close it. That is no longer being done. We have a robot who, as soon as everything is submitted, if it's 6 p.m. or 11 p.m., she handles it quite well. We used to have a team who just focus on alarm rationalization. So 95% of that is actually done by robots. And now they are very well into validating the alarms and making sure if they have any alarms, they actually attend to it.
There was a lot of buzz and excitement during the panel discussion on September 13th. And there was a gentleman in the crowd who approached me and was really impressed by all the initiatives and the efforts happening at the CBO. CBO's, the Central Bank of Oman, is a regulatory authority, and the words I tend to think of, words like control, comes to mind when I think of a regulatory body, and yet you connected web to freedom, which is kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. So I'm very interested to hear, how is the CBO using Web3 technology?
Very good. Thank you, Jamal. But before I answer you, I definitely want to say that we did not reach a stage of introducing 4 robots into CBO. That's PDO's role. But with regards to Web3 and where we are, you're absolutely right. People call us regulators, but I would really like people to call us enablers, because, there's a mindset shift to where we want to reach, and we have high ambitions. And if we move as an enabler, we're moving with us a whole entire sector, right? We have banks, we have finance leasing companies, we have money exchange establishments, we have payment service providers, and we have fintechs. That's a huge, chunk of a sector waiting for us. And we really have to be bold. We really have to embrace technology. We have to embrace change. But, just to go back to your question, I really don't want to talk about what we are doing for the sector currently. I want to talk about what we are doing internally within the Central Bank of Oman. And one word or one initiative that we're very enthusiastic about is upskilling. Right? Just to give justice to all those applicants that actually want to embrace the technology, we have to make sure that equally we are ready to assess, we are ready understand the technology. And by that, I mean, not only study and obtain certificates, but also one of our initiatives is to enhance the corporate innovation by providing a blockchain testing environment. We have done that in collaboration with a Omani local company. They're providing us access with knowledge transfer so that we can, test and learn, understand those technologies, the capabilities of them. So it's easier for us to apply them, whether in the Central Bank of Oman or to be able to, give justice to people, to the sector or to the innovators that want to approach us, right? In the end, this will help us in our decision-making process. So I think upskilling is where we are currently at the Central Bank.
How has that upskilling initiative been going? I mean, how have your colleagues and the management How have they taken to it? Has it been challenging? Has it been was there resistance? And did people kind of question the idea? How's that been?
I think with change, this comes by default, right? Leading innovation department, we deal with everybody in the central bank, all the different departments within the bank, and everybody has an opinion, right? Especially when you mentioned that, we're regulators. Yes, they put risk ahead of innovation, but you have to convince, you have to show your vision, you have to show them that we're here to also drive. So I face a challenge trying to strike a balance between trying to steer up the innovation and just understand their perspective of risk. But in the end, my talk to them is, it's just a dummy environment when we can test and learn, on it. There's no high risk as such. And it's there to make us understand the use cases, right? When I talk to a certain manager or to a certain team member, I tell them, you might, if we introduce something, if there's a use case for us, it will actually free you and you'll be able to do other important things. So I always, try to cater the technology to, their needs. And I think, we're going to kick off next year, 2024 quarter 1. And I'm really excited to see what comes during, this test and learn environment.
Yeah, I'd also I agree on upskilling, and we're also taking it quite seriously. I think one of our approaches is quite, it's very fruitful for us. We had this initial idea where we'd look at technology, and we'll look at technology not for the sake of how the world was moving towards it, but for the sake of how we can adopt to solve solutions. Problems within the company. We have a 3-tier approach when it comes to upskilling. The top tier is where all of the employees are required to do the role 100%. So if you're looking for a data scientist, the person is a data scientist. We're upskilling them in a data science environment. Then we have a tier 2, which we are partnering with MIT. We call it Digital Muscle. We are taking enthusiasts across the organization, and we are utilizing that 20% of their capacity, bringing them to robotics, process automation, agile, data science, data engineering, the skills that we actually need. So the business is being equipped with a skill set that they can solve low complexity. And if it's high complexity, we can work together where you have the tier 1 to address. Last tier is the massive one, which we are raising awareness on foundational pillars, which we consider digital technologies, AI, generative AI, blockchain, and the likes of it, where entire PDO is expected and mandated to address this skill set. We call it AI for all. And currently we started beginning of this year, and we're doing quite well.
You mentioned $6 million in savings from the initiatives at PDO. Can Web3 make money? And are there any projections? Like if you had to defend, let's say your CEO came to you and said, all of this is somewhat nonsensical. Let's just focus on our core work and improve efficiencies there. Why are we trying to do things differently? How would you defend Web3 technologies, and are there projections on potential income that could be generated?
So I'll look at Web3 as better than making money. So how I look at Web3 is a capability. Today, we are transforming organizations based on their purpose, their strategy, and their business model. Business model is your competitive advantage on how you operate. Without Web 3.0, your business model is not decentralized, not efficient. For example, I'll give you an example. In our culture, PDO, we have embedded the culture that we're actually working with partners, not contractors. It's what our framework says, it's our processes. But when it comes to technology, we're limited. We still audit, we still ask, we still validate. But when you look at Web 3.0 with the transparency, and Ghada spoke about the freedom, you find our business model is more adaptive, and we can actually address compliance, validation, freedom, transparency, autonomy, and we're not limited. So I would say value is definitely there, and we're experiencing it. But if you're not going to capitalize on Web 3.0 in the near future, you'll be limited to traditional business operating models.
Ghada, I want to take it to you now. Do you think Web 3.0's promise of decentralization is a good thing? How is it impacting the CBO, and how is it impacting the banking sector? Tell us how you see decentralization playing a role in banking.
Yeah, absolutely. So to me, there are two aspects to the decentralization world, right? There is the underlying technology, which we are completely in love with. And then there is the cryptocurrency space, right? This cryptocurrency, which actually as a regulator, we don't consider it as a currency. So from now onwards, we're going to use virtual assets to represent cryptocurrency instead of cryptocurrency. So how is it affecting the banking sector? It depends. If we're talking about the underlying technology, I think there is a lot in it for the banking sector or the financial sector in general, because we believe that, and I have an example. We have embarked we supported a local bank in 2019 in the first blockchain trade finance transaction. It was a pilot between a local bank with its subsidiary branch in the UAE. The aim of us supporting this pilot was to understand, as a regulator, where do we stand? Are there any regulations missing? Are we missing out in, an opportunity for the banking sector? And the pilot went successful, very successful actually. We managed to reduce the time for a letter of credit, end-to-end letter of credit transaction from 5 to 10 days to less than 24 hours. That's one. The other aspect is, the letter of credit transaction, there's a lot of stakeholders involved, right? So the stakeholder management was very well, taken care of by the blockchain, with the smart contract. It was very traceable for us as a regulator. So we actually really loved it. The third aspect, it's very paper intensive, Jamal. If you go to a bank now and, one of our aims in Vision 2040 is to increase the FDI, we're going to see a lot of people approaching, the banks with letter of credit. So how do we automate that? And what better way of automation than the blockchain technology? So to us, this was a very successful story and a very useful use case that currently, we have a fintech regulatory sandbox where it's a relaxed environment where we test solutions. We have actually called out for all of our 20 banks to join the journey and test trade finance use cases that support letter of credit, like bank guarantees, for example. And, it's an equal opportunity for banks, and we're here to support them. And this time, we are going to test more complex scenarios to be able to supplement the full-fledged rollout of trade finance using blockchain. The aim is to make the global trade business more efficient, and so this is one good use case. The crypto banks with cryptocurrencies, I think that will increase the compliance cost, right? Because we set the tone. We tell the banks, it depends on your risk appetite. Are you okay with Omanis transacting with crypto? Do you have the risk appetite? And some banks do. So when Bank A and Bank B has that risk appetite, they will have to increase their due diligence, because there's a lot of loopholes currently happening in the cryptocurrency space. And as a banking sector, they should be able to identify. So that will mean they will have to monitor more those accounts, and that will increase their compliance cost. But like all other technologies, I think there's always a positive and a negative. And this is how we see it for the sector.
Do you think we're ahead of the curve, Ghada, as a country?
I'd like to reverse that question. I don't like to be running after something, but let's talk about readiness. right? If with any technology, there are several aspects that you look into to identify how ready are you as a country with regard to this technology. And I like to pool those 5 readiness measures into policies and regulations. Do we have them in place? Let's reverse think what we need to embark on a blockchain technology. Those platforms are usually hosted in global clouds. Do we have cloud computing policies in place? Do you have digital onboarding mechanisms in place? Do we have for the sector outsourcing policies? So those are questions that we should be asking ourselves. And for us at the central bank, we do. We've reverse thought the process, and we have at least the fundamental basic policies, agile policies in place to help. The second aspect is, do we have testing platforms, right? With technology, you cannot always go right. You cannot always estimate what can go wrong. So we have to have a platform where, our sector can actually join and securely test their business propositions. At the end, we can say yes, we can say no, but at least we're giving them the freedom to test it. The third aspect that, assesses the readiness of a country is, how good is your digital financial infrastructure? Is it forward-looking? Is there anything that you would need to upgrade? Are we resilient enough for the next generation to plug and play? So that's another question. The third or fourth has to do with research and development and education, right? And I really want to brag about what we have, currently embarked on. We have worked with the College of Banking and Financial Services, which is actually an arm under the educational arm under the Central Bank of Oman. And we have launched the first FinTech professional diploma. This is the first in the Middle East, actually, and it's a professional certificate in fintech. We worked very closely. Why are we doing this? Because we want to make sure that there is enough talent in Oman, and this professional diploma was carefully crafted to have 2 paths. There is the leadership path in fintech for those who want to become CEOs in the future, or entrepreneurs, and there's the technical path. The technical path is all about Web3. So the technical path talks, it's all test and learn. It's all how can we, cater to digital assets? How do central bank digital currencies work? What are the underlying technologies of blockchain and AI? What are those regulatory tools that the regulators require? As we speak, the classes have started. It's their first week, and it's something to look out for.
Saud, I noticed you nodding your head a lot as Ghada was speaking.
Very good point. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, granted that, tech and especially Web3 is evolving very quickly, being agile, being adaptable, but at the same time kind of building these frameworks which enable us to build and test or prototype. Can you connect to those ideas, and can you share some thoughts around that?
Yeah.
And what PDO is doing?
So in 2018, blockchain was quite hitting the market, and everyone was talking about it. In PDO, we started having demands on let's look in blockchain and how we can actually implement it. And we had these cyclic conversation where we would not see a demand, but there was always an appetite. We need blockchain into our landscape. We looked into use cases, and within 6 or 8 months came to our realization that we do not have a valuable use case to implement blockchain yet. So that itself is, it goes back to the concept that we solve problems, but not adopt technologies for the sake of it. Within the same year, we had another good candidate where we were looking at HSE. We have more than 9,000 kilometers of pipeline, and sometimes pipes leak. When they leak oil, it's quite hazardous. And what our lagging practice was, drive through, try to look, and you see a big spot of black oil. There's a leakage somewhere. When you come back, you try to pinpoint it, and it's sometimes kilometer in variance, and you have to look for it. Days delays, and it's not only costing the company, but it also challenges the environment. In 2018, we started a concept where we'd actually fly drones, fitted wing drones, which can fly hours. When they come back with terabytes of data, we'd use machine learning to look for these black spots of oil. Now, in that time, there was a deep learning model out there which can classify what's a dog and what's a cat. From a business angle, they always look at us that if a machine can classify a dog and a cat, should be very easy to classify a black spot on a picture. And it actually made sense until we actually trained it. And for any data scientist would know, if you don't have enough experience, you don't have a working model. We came out with the results which was not accurate, but then we managed to accurately classify shadows. One way or the other, any building casting a shadow, we would nail per the pixel. So if anyone is quite interested in a model that classifies shadows, we don't have a use for it, let me know, I'll hook you up. But that was a very good understanding that it's not everything that you think it's easy and it will actually work. There is a lot of investment into it. How we were doing it initially was not agile. It was more of we lock ourselves, we'll try to solve it based on our understanding. Then when you go to the business has a very different concept into it. We later came up with a digital maturation framework, which has agile end-to-end. And now we're churning way better products than what we used to have.
Here's a question to both of you. Innovation requires a lot of effort. Adopting innovation is also a challenge. Do you think innovation should come from the people that are doing the day-to-day work, or do you think innovation is better sort of done through a separate department? Because as I understand it, Web3 does require change. It does require innovation. I understand that you have successfully integrated Web3 technology, but has that happened as a separate department, or has it happened within existing departments? Can you share some thoughts on that? Maybe Ghada, if you could explain how the CBO roles.
I really like your question, Jamal, because we've tried both and one didn't work out. So we've embarked in the financial technology sphere since 2019. We were just a committee. We had to do two main tasks and we were not able to run. It was too hectic because, as you mentioned, innovation needs its own space. It needs you to read more. It needs a lot of collaboration. It consumes your energy to convince people that what you're doing makes sense, right? And you need to be really convincing. So management has actually, I think in 2021, decided that, we are not going as far and as visionary as we want, where we want to be. So they have actually established in the innovation department, a fully, capable department that reports directly to our executive president.
Yeah.
So now this has worked wonders for us. Now, personally, I'll talk to you about how I like to lead the team. We spoke about convincing and, this new thing where people actually look at you and, what, you're such a dreamy person. Are you sure we're going to introduce a central bank digital currency? Are you sure open banking is a good concept? So I've actually asked my management for space. I told them, sometimes I need to clear my mind. Can I have, I'll get the work done, but can I have my own space? Can I work from a coffee shop? Is it okay if we go to a co-working space? And, obviously the answer was, if you can deliver, please, find your own space. So we've been doing that as a team. And this really also helped us accelerate and sort of clear our mind. We are really ambitious. And as I mentioned earlier, the faster we run, the faster the sector we run, the faster we're gonna go places. So the other aspect I really want to talk to you about, and it's personal to my office, I changed that desk from it being, one way. And, I've started this new concept at the central bank where I've actually have, my office is just, a meeting table. So people, there's no authority. We're in this together. I'm not here dictating what we should. We're moving together. And every time somebody comes, like, is this your office? That's a meeting room. What are you doing here? And then I explain to them, this is our space. We innovate together. We run together. We will go places together. So, things like this, as small as, it may be, but it really shows them that you're serious. Space is really important for us to really innovate.
Sounds like you've just described the decentralized model of Web3 itself, and you've applied it to your working space. Saud?
So in innovation, I'll just walk away from, I'll go outside Oman. Long ago, Amazon had this policy that if anyone brings up an idea and you don't want to approve the idea to go forward, then you are, as a supervisor, expected to write a 2-page justification why the idea is not a good idea. And web services, Amazon Web Services, came out of that idea. It's a multi-billion-dollar market currently that could have easily been washed away. But to justify 2-pager is also a realization that you need to be very vigilant and that this idea is not valuable or not. On the other side of the coin is NASA. When it comes to innovation, they were actually stuck. They had the best minds closed in, but then lacked one ingredient: collective wisdom. They started a program where they would push out these mathematical problems to the world. Whoever was interested at their own time, they would actually look into it and try to solve it. Not surprisingly now, but surprisingly then, suddenly mathematical equations which were taking months and years would just come back within weeks, where you'd have somebody in India, somebody in California who documents it very well. So in PDO, we have a system called Siraj. It's part of the Lean Foundation, where everyone is encouraged to post ideas, and it goes through a workflow in approvals from your supervisor up to sometimes it reaches a director level. And I could say the amount of ideas that actually come through is quite amazing. A lot of them are actually addressed. And those which are not addressed, at least we know that they are part and parcel of the funnel.
There's a huge growth in the small and medium-sized enterprises in Oman. A lot of SMEs are having a huge impact on the country. And there's a great environment here in terms of fostering their growth and capability. Huge push from the government to support them, and also props to the finance sector as well for massive strides. How would you, or what would you advise them in terms of getting started with Web 3.0? If you could address that, Saud.
Yeah. So I think there's already traction. I remember in 2019 conducting a survey trying to understand the local market. Out of 68 startups, we only had 2 who are actually looking at digital technologies, which I would consider part and parcel Web 3.0. So the niche area and the challenges are something that I would encourage startups to actually look into. How do you jump into that area is by first understanding the basics, understanding the technologies. Not a blockchain is not easy implementing it. So the foundation is quite important. The second part is look for a problem. Look for a problem that nobody has actually solved it. And if you come very close to the solution, I'm a great believer that companies would actually facilitate whatever percentage is left to get that product. We do have companies, I believe, Frontech, which are consistently developing blockchain. They started developing applications on blockchain. One of the famous application is the annual general meeting between Oman and Qatar is all under the blockchain foundation. I liked how they also looked into the space and looked at the challenges where if PDO would come into implementing blockchain, the capital investment would have been quite huge. 3 ledgers is not something we develop our current websites on. And now they are providing services that they would provide the infrastructure. You just pay for the service. So if you're looking for an application on blockchain, you don't invest 100%, you invest what you're actually going to use. It's an Omani company. They're very good into the market, and they're actually addressing even regional applications. So understand the basics, look for a problem to solve, and you'd be part of the niche and competitive.
I think that's actually good general business advice for any entrepreneur to hear. And I wanted to take it to you, Ghada. I understand the CBO is, as you mentioned, empowering people and empowering businesses. What advice do you typically give to an SME who's looking to embed Web 3.0 technologies into a financial sector business?
Right. I think my advice is going to be very general. We call them fintech companies, which is financial technology companies. But through my experience, I noticed that, why not call them tech fin? Because they come with a technology mindset and they don't do really well with their financial knowledge. So we have a big role here with regards to mentoring them, supporting them, so that we can upskill their financial knowledge to match their technology knowledge. And then we'll have success stories to actually brag about and support. This is one. The second advice that I would like to give to the technology or innovators is, as Saud mentioned it actually, he touched upon it, it's don't use technology in search for clients. That's not a sustainable approach. We've seen it, and businesses, and that's why most businesses fail. I would love for the SMEs to actually fall in love with the problem, understand the root cause of the problem, then see what type of technology out there can actually help, if it can help support, fix the problem. So that's my second advice to the startups. But I also want to say that we are here to support. They don't have to be 100% ready. I know for sure that me and my team provide a lot of mentorship. We spend a lot of time supporting them. It will be really good for them also to be coachable, right? When we invest time, I would expect for them to actually, just take at least 80% of what we're saying into consideration, because in the end of it, it will help them. And we do say no. Not all applications that come are welcomed. If an application touches upon a financial stability risk, if it's not meeting up to the anti-money laundering laws or terrorist financing laws, or it's very prone to fraud, especially if you're talking about a financial product, then we will obviously say no. But we'll even give them time. We'll mentor them on why we are saying no, and, what are the impacts of those, risks to the financial sector.
Thank you, Ghada. Ghada, would you be able to share a name of a single fintech in Oman, an SME, and tell us a bit about what they're up to?
Any fintech or a Web3 fintech?
Any Web3 or any fintech in Oman.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we have the Fintech Regulatory Sandbox, which is a very relaxed testing environment under the supervision of the Central Bank of Oman. It's cohort-based, so we open each cohort based on the demand of the market. Obviously, sandboxes are not made for regulation, right? It's a pre-stage where there's no regulation. We don't expect to have each and every regulation tech-related in place, right? So we test them. And we started in end of 2020, and we have one very successful graduate. He's providing an innovative payment service in chat transfer. He's something similar to WeChat in China, and we are very proud. His team are fully Omani, and he graduated successfully, and now he's operating fully licensed and fully operational in Oman. So I think OmPay is one of the success stories out of the sandbox.
Thank you for that. SMEs are very much a part of the future, a growing part. Which takes me really to the last question to close the podcast today. If we could start with you, Saud. Yeah. How do you see Web3 shaping the future of the oil and gas sector over the next 5 years? What should we be paying careful attention to, in your opinion?
So currently we do have a new purpose that we are transitioning from an oil and gas to an energy transition. And the purpose holds sustainability, decarbonization, maximizing value for Oman. And we cannot do these three things with our traditional technologies. New operating models, we have a vast amount of data we need to process. Our compliance changes, policies are way more dynamic than they used to be. Competition is more aggressive than it used to be. And if we're looking at the end-to-end value stream, I do not see the best efficiency and or optimization without the Web3 technologies. We in oil and gas, as complexity is variety, velocity, and volume. Most of our problems, if you look at them, we need to see it now, near real time. So 3-minute or 4-minute delay is a challenge. We're talking about terabytes of data. We're actually talking about data that humans cannot comprehend. So with all of these complexities, Web 2.0, we have already reached the 99th percentile of what we can extract value from, most of it. We need to start tapping into the new domain that we're bringing in. Success is considering digital or Web 3.0 as an enabler to our strategy and our new purpose.
Thank you, Saud. Ghada, if I could ask you the same question. How do you see Web3 shaping the future of the banking sector in Oman? And what do you think that our listeners should really be paying attention to?
I think 5 years is a long time for technology. So I'd expect us to be leaders in a certain field. That's one, and that's for sure. The second aspect is I believe I would really love to see collaboration between the tech companies and the banking sector. I think this is where the growth is, and this is where the opportunity lays. The last thing I want to see is integration, right? So it spoke about silos. And I believe with technology, we should not think of Web3 as a silo, but how do we integrate it with Web2, and how can we integrate it with the other beautiful initiatives that we are working on? So we are working on open banking, which has a lot of potential. And we're talking about, we're going to work on central bank digital currencies, a lot of potential there. So how can we integrate Web3 into our other initiatives? I think this is something I'm, highly anticipating to see.
If there was sort of one key takeaway, one thing you think the audience should walk away with from this podcast, is there a message you'd like to send about Web3? Maybe we can start with you, Saud.
I would look into history and compare to where we currently are. And one factor which is dominant is fear of what is new and what is unknown. Today, Bitcoin, if you look at it and the concept, it doesn't really make sense. You mine digitally, you mine for digital coins, and you compute and consume quite a lot of energy so that the probability of earning value is there. And that's the digital world we're talking about. That compute, a lot of us look at it as wasted, and we could actually use the energy for something else. But when you look at it historically, you start looking at currency, pure piece of paper. How does it have value? It's based on the whole of the community agreeing that this piece of paper actually has value. Yes, it's physical, it's not a digital coin. But then you go back again, gold. I sit sometimes on a bench 100, 200 years ago and looking at miners going to a mountain to mine gold. And I'm sure it's the same feeling I have. what kind of rocks are they actually pulling from the ground, and they consider this value, but look at where we are now. So fear is something that we do have because we don't really know what we're getting ourselves into. But all in all, I look at our world as a world of abundance, but we're not making the best use of it. And these technologies, given transparency and freedom, will make sure that whatever we produce, we maximize for the best fit for our world itself.
Thank you, Saud. Is there any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience, Ghada, in closing?
Yeah, I have a general statement, and it says, help us help you. So talk to us, be curious, experiment. We're here to support, and we're here to support you. So, I think we are doing quite a lot to support the technology growth in Oman, and it will only increase or grow from here. So keep an eye on this space, and we are very approachable. If you have any business proposition or if you're interested in anything we've said today, please reach out.
Thank you very much. That wraps up another episode of Tejarah Talks. Thanks for joining us. Please don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform and join us again next time. Until then, stay curious.
Tejarah Talks.